Exactly on time. Let's begin. Um, I could share my screen. Okay, a quick recap of what we have done in our last session. So in our last session, we have seen the setup of EKS cluster, configuration file which we need to update in order to connect to Kubernetes cluster, kubectl software which we need to install to in order to connect to Kubernetes cluster. And after that, we have executed couple of kubectl commands. Let's see. Let me quickly connect. Kubectl command which we executed, such as kubectl get nodes. And here we learned we have one node available at this point. And this node is for the last session, we had two nodes, but since it was more expensive, I just reduced it. And I am keeping only one node at this point of time. And kubectl get ns is the namespace and different namespace which we get by default. And we ended up our last session by creating one namespace which is with the name demo ns. All right. Any questions still here? Okay.
For me, it's clear.
Okay. Have you gone through the recordings, last day recordings, Ashwini? Friday's recording?
Yes, sir. I gone through little bit, but not complete.
Okay. Okay. So complete that because in order to work, and I know you were very much interested in
Yes,
knowing about Kubernetes and Docker. So I'll
right.
strongly insist you to go ahead and complete that. And let me tell you, in 2026,
Mm-hmm.
without Kubernetes, you will not be able to get a DevOps job. That's for sure. Without container, you will not be able to get a DevOps job. These two are the prime thing. These two are the most important thing which every interviewer is looking in DevOps landscape. So you must
Mm-hmm.
know these two things.
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay. So and now we know this namespace and all, default namespace, non-default namespace. And after that, let's try to create our first thing. Let's try to create our first pod. Now, pod, what is pod? Pod, like the way we learned in our previous session also. Pod is the pod is the basic building unit which we can have, which will be present in each node. I'm having one node, so pod has to be created in this node itself. Now, in order to create this pod, what I have to do is I have to execute few of kubectl command. So now in order to first check what is the pod available, the command is kubectl get pods. If I execute this command, what it says, no resource found in default namespace. Which is default namespace? This one. But we created our own namespace, demo ns, and that is how we work in real time also. In real time, we don't create resources in default namespace, which Kubernetes offers us by default. Rather, we try to create our own namespace and we create resources in no, own namespace only so that we can create some sort of isolation in between resource allocations in each of the namespace, like the way I explained in our last session also. So now let's see how many pods we do have in our namespace pods. And in order to see for by default, by default you no need to mention any namespace where resources are present. But if you want to list down resources in any specific namespace, then you have to give the name of the namespace with hyphen n flag. So I'm going to give that here with hyphen n flag. I'll mention the namespace where I want to list down all the resources. Here, I want to list down the resources in a specific namespace, which is demo-ns. And as I hit enter, it says that now you see, it doesn't say that no resource found in default namespace. Rather, it says that no resource found in demo-ns namespace, right? It's very clear. Now, in order to check how many pods, we executed this command kubectl get pods -n demo ns to list down all the pods. Now, since there are no pods, it's the time to create the pod, because that will be very much essential. Like the way we first learned when we were working on Docker, we learned how to create a container. Same thing we have to learn here too. We have to learn how to create a pod to begin with. Now, in order to create a pod, the command first I'll show you like the way the plan we discussed earlier. First, we'll learn about Kubernetes commands, and then we'll learn about Kubernetes manifest files. I'll show you both the things for each resources which we are going to create, and which are the resources we are going to work. Pod, after that a replica set, service, deployment set, and this is all the hierarchy which for which this diagram is made, right? So now to begin with, I'll show you how to create a pod. In order to create a pod, the command which we use is, and there we again will talk about how to see different components of the pod, how to see all the things within the pod also. So now in order to create our first pod, the command will be kubectl run pod hyphen image and the name of the image. Like if you remember what we did in Docker, in case of Docker, what we did, we executed the command Docker and then we used the keyword run, and then we did not specifically use the flag hyphen image, right? The command which we executed in case of Docker in order to create a container was this docker run, and the name of the image we did not use any sort of keyword or any sort of flag as hyphen image, but in case of kubectl you have to mention that. So instead of Docker, I'm just writing kubectl run remains same, and here instead of it, I'm mentioning the pod which I want to create and hyphen image and the name of the image. So this is the syntax for writing docker run pod hyphen image and the name of the image. Let's consider I want to create a pod with image and Nginx, like the way we created in case of Docker also. Similarly, I want to create a pod here also with image and Nginx. And what happens now, from where this image will be pulled? This image will be pulled from Docker Hub directly. So what it is going to do, it is going to reach to Docker Hub, will pull this image from Docker Hub and will create the container for me. So it doesn't mean that it's going to pull the image from elsewhere. Remember, our hub for all the images is Docker Hub only. So even Kubernetes, like the way I said you even earlier, Kubernetes won't be able to work without Docker, right? If Docker is not present in my machine, Kubernetes will not work. That is for sure. Now, in this machine, Docker is already present because while working on the demo session, while working on Docker session, I had installed Docker here. So Docker is already present. So now what I'm going to do, I am just going to pull the Docker image from Docker Hub and is going to create the pod. Let's run it. Now, as I run it, what it says, pod is created, right? Pod is created. So now I'll say kubectl. Okay, now one mistake I have done, I did not mention any hyphen n here. Hyphen n here I did not mention. So where it has created the resource, it has created the resource in default namespace. So if I mention kubectl get pods hyphen n demo hyphen ns, it still shows that no resource found in demo ns namespace. Why? Because I did not mention the flag hyphen n in this command. I have to do that. But now since I did not mention, so what it would have done, it has created a pod in it has created a pod in in default namespace. Can you see this? It has created a pod in default namespace. Now, previously when I executed same command, it said that no resources found in default namespace. When I executed same command now, it doesn't say that there are no resources. Rather, it says that there is one resource with the name pod which you have created, which is still creating container creating. It takes few seconds for it to create. You see now it's running, right? It was in container creating state few seconds back. There was zero ready, now it's one ready, and it is running now. It has created for last 74 seconds, so it is back up. So now in order to create it in demo ns namespace, because that is our namespace, default is not our namespace. So in order to create in demo ns namespace, what I'll do, I'll just create it with the name of the namespace as demo ns. I'm just giving the name of my namespace where it has to create. Hit enter. Now it has again created, but this time it has created in demo ns namespace. You see, it is creating. So it doesn't matter in case if the name of the pod is same in different namespaces. Namespace matters. Where you're creating the resource, that actually matters. So you have to ensure that you are creating resources in the right namespace whenever you are working in real-time situation. I'll give a quick pause here. Any question in how to create a pod? Please ask me.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
okay. Still a bit confusion. Can you please just in a quicker way, can you please explain it again?
What I'll do is I'll create the pod again. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So let me just do one thing. Just remove it. 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃. Sorry. Delete. Oh, pod. Okay. So now if I see there are no pods, pod one of one running. Okay, again, I think I deleted in default namespace -n demo ns. Done. So now if I see demo ns, no pod. If I see it in default namespace, no pod. All clean like the way it was there before. I'll create it again. Now, in order to create, what I'm going to do, I will execute a command. The command which I executed, kubectl run pod. And in case if you want to give the name to the pod, I think you can do that also. Run pod and give the name of the pod as demo pod -n image name. So what I'm doing, kubectl run, this is the command, kubectl run pod. This is the command. This is the name of the pod which you want to create. If you are not giving any name, then by default it will consider the name as pod only. -image and the image which will be used to create the pod. Because what is the underlying pod? What is there within the pod? Within the pod there is ultimately container only, right? This diagram always keep in mind. Within the pod ultimately there is container only. And what do you need to create a container? Definitely image, right? Without image it is not going to work. Now when I execute this command, what it says that demo kubectl run pod demo pod -image nginx, what it is going to do, it is going to create a pod for me. This command is used to create a pod for me. And now if I mention demo ns, right? Again, I created a default namespace. Every time I'm doing same mistake. Okay. Now you see when I executed this command, what it has done, it is showing me the pod which is created in default namespace. Why? Because I did not mention -n and I did not give any namespace name while executing this command. Until unless I'm using this flag, it will just keep pointing to default namespace. Understand the difference in between default namespace and custom namespace properly. Because while working in real-time situation, you will use it very widely. So you have to understand this difference very nicely. So now when I executed this command kubectl run pod, if you are able to recognize, I did not put this hyphen n. Henceforth, when I'm executing this command to list down all the pod in demo ns namespace, it says that there are no resource. But when I executed the command without any namespace, it is pointing me to default namespace and it says that yes, pod is created. Right? Yes, pod is created. And if I execute the command again, it says that it is showing some error. It is trying to restart over and over again. Let it restart. Right? Let it restart. So now this is the way. But now let me try to create a resource there in demo ns namespace. I'll execute same command, and this time what I'll do, I'll use the flag as hyphen n demo hyphen ns. With this command, I'm explicitly mentioning that you create the pod where you create the pod in namespace whose name is demo ns. Now, when I hit enter, it says that pod is created. And in order to list down the pod in demo ns namespace, I have to use the flag again. I've used the flag again, and now it says yes, this pod is up and running. Right? This pod is up and running where? In demo ns namespace. Exactly same thing I did earlier too. Is it clear this time?
Yes, sir. Now it's clear.
Yes,
Okay.
sir, it is clear. Sir, is there any proper format for this syntax or the commands so that we
Um,
do not need to learn it?
you have to learn it now. You have to
Okay, I
learn
have
it.
to learn it.
Yeah, because the interviewer will ask, what is the command to create a pod?
No,
What is the
I'm
command to roll
asking
back?
like sometime we are hyphen n demo, then the hyphen ns. Is there any standard like okay, you need to make these keywords like that whenever we want to see the list or filter data like that?
So basically you have to learn. Okay. And
Okay.
another thing is about talking about the standard. It's like kubectl get is the standard. So get
Okay.
is to list,
Mm-hmm.
run is to create, apply is to create by using some sort of file. So there are three standards: get
Mm-hmm.
to list, run to create by using command, apply to create by using some manifest file. Yeah. And other than that,
Okay.
for rollback, there are another standard, but mostly widely used standard is list, create. These two are the most widely used in order to list, get, in order to create, run, or apply. That's it.
Okay, sir. Okay. So, is it like can we take help from tab or help button? Suppose I'll remember kubectl get. After that, is there any other options to get multiple options like pressing tab? Like in Cisco, what we are doing, we do not learn the commands. We are just using the tab. They are giving the options, multiple options. Then finally we run the command will with help of that.
Yeah, so in what happens in case of, and this I'm just assuming because
Mm-hmm.
I think I logged into Cisco this terminal, but it's been a while now. Whenever we connect to Cisco terminal, what we do is we get that terminal from certain application itself, right? Or maybe
Okay.
even, right? So we have already the software installed, and
Mhm.
the terminal is a part of the software itself. Then when we open the terminal, when we press tab, we get the option. Why? Because the software has all those Cisco specific commands already present. And the terminal, since it's configured, it's running on top of software, it is able to pull all those commands directly from the software, right?
Right,
So,
right.
in
Exactly.
this case, what is happening? In this case, this terminal, what you're seeing, this black screen, is not
Mhm.
running on top of Kubernetes. This is a standalone virtual machine, and today, what I'm doing is I'm creating it in a EC2 instance. It might happen that when you join an organization, you are asked to
Mhm.
run everything on your Windows itself. So this black screen will turn into your Windows black screen, maybe this one, PowerShell, maybe this one. So now this is not running on any Kubernetes software. This is your terminal. So having that
Mhm.
software by default is not possible. So
Not
by
possible.
default, you won't get. So for that, what you have to do is you have to install some sort of extension. Yes, it's possible, but you have to install some sort of extension. And there are many extension which will give softwares those commands to you. So for example, Kubernetes commands extensions, extension. See, extension is there for Visual Studio Code. Extension is there for Windows also. So yes, see, extend kubectl with plugins. So what you have to do, you have to install certain plugins, certain other softwares, which will help you to complete that command by using tab. So you have to install this plugin index and plugin list. Example, Kubernetes, not this foo. There are some plugins you have to update config file, but there are plugins for Kubernetes. Normally, we put that plugin there in the terminal, which we get in the Linux terminal in case in Windows, which is Visual Studio Code. We use that, but we get that kubectl. I think plugin command tree. This is one of the plugin which we use, with the use of which we are able to complete the command, kubectl commands by just pressing tab. So yes, it's possible. By default, you won't get, that is for sure. But yes, you will get in case if you are able to install it. So in case, let me just execute this command, kubectl plugin list, unable to read root directory, skipping, unable to find. So in my this machine, plugin is not installed. That is the reason it's unable to find it. Otherwise, it would have displayed. So you have to install it separately, in short. Understood, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
But I believe, sir, Linux basic knowledge is helpful. I mean, for command line, lots
Yeah, yeah.
of command.
Fundamental knowledge of Linux will be
Yeah.
Linux. Yes.
important. So I'll tell you the roadmap of, see, this is the roadmap of DevOps in 2026. You have to have this roadmap with you. In Linux, learn Ubuntu or learn any of the Linux distribution you can learn. Fundamentals of Linux will be very important for you in order to work well
It is used in everywhere. I mean, in
everywhere.
nowadays in Cisco switches also they are using many Linux
Ye-
command.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So, sir, do we have Linux in this course as well? Linux
Not
commands?
Linux
No.
commands. Yes, we are on any normal basis. All the commands which we are using, like mkdir, chmod, cd,
Basic
those
one.
those are the Linux commands. Having knowledge of those commands at the initial level is enough. Advanced level information at this point you don't need, because whenever interviewer will judge you, they won't judge you on the basis of your Linux command or the Linux knowledge. Rather, they will judge you on how you're using those commands in your practical situation, maybe in organizing your source code by using git. Are you able to execute mkdir command properly? When you are using it, how you are switching from one directory to another directory, how you are quickly move from one directory to another directory, or take a step back to one directory to another directory, or how to copy files from one directory to another directory, how to copy recursive level of files from one directory to another directory, how to copy directories from one directory to another directory, how to check the files space or the memory of your Linux machine. On the basis of these commands, you will be judged, not on the basis of like what is the, what is those buffer memory, or what is the hardware of Linux, what is shell, what is kernel. You will not be judged on that basis. So having the basic knowledge, fundamental knowledge in Linux is enough, right? Because you won't be getting interviewed for Linux administrator job. You will be interviewed for DevOps job, wherein having understanding of containers, having understanding of orchestration, CI/CD, observability, monitoring, tracing will be more important rather than having a core knowledge of Linux. But yes, fundamentals of Linux will be needed. Okay. Okay, so now let's begin. Now the first thing, so now you learned how to create a pod, right? Let's how to create a pod. You understood that. Now what I'm going to show you is how to write a manifest to create a pod. How to write a manifest to create a pod. Now, in order to write a manifest to create a pod, I want to introduce you a file format to which we call as YAML, right? I want to introduce you YAML syntax. I want to introduce you a file format to which we call as YAML. A bit of theory will be there, but yes, having this theory knowledge will be important. YAML. YAML YAML is also written as YML. Anything is fine. If someone writes YAML or YML, it's fine. So the file format will be something like this. File format will be same abc.yaml or abc.yaml. ABC is the name of the file. .yaml is the file format, which is written in YAML syntax. .yaml is also written is a file format, which is written in YAML syntax. So now having the knowledge of YAML or YML will be very much essential for you. And I want to just give you idea about how to write that. Okay, so now YAML works on key value pair with proper indentation. What is indentation? Proper spaces. It strictly follows that indentation. Why it follows indentation? Because YAML follows Python standard. What is Python? Python is a scripting language. It's a programming language which is highly used in applications in automation at this point of time. Python works very much on indentation, on proper spaces. If you are not able to put proper spaces, Python will start giving you plenty of errors. Similar to that, YAML, YAML or YML, both are pronounced as YAML only. This also works a lot on indentation, spacing. Proper spacing is very much important. Having two white space, pressing space bar twice is the standard way. So normally what we do, we press space bar twice or tab once. So once you press tab, it basically means 3 times you are pressing space bar is equals to 1 times pressing tab, right? So three space bar equals to 1 tab. This is the normal convention which your computer is following at this point of time. So either you press space bar twice or you press tab once. This is the standard which we are following to write any of the YAML script. YAML script always works on key value pair. What is key value pair? Like name Chandrasekhar, name Ashwani, name Vaibhav. This is the key. Name is the key. What is the value this name is getting? Chandrasekhar, Ashwani, Vaibhav. These are the names which this key is getting. Other keys could be anything. Other keys could be city, state, pin code. These are the keys. The value could be based on the location which you live. So key value pair is the standard which is followed in YAML. You have to follow that. For example, for example, say a key is company, and the value which this key gets is GoInit, right? GoInit is offering maybe multiple courses. Courses is the key. Again, you see, after writing the key, I'm putting a colon, and after that, I'm passing value. There is no equals to sign. There is no equals to, right? I'm putting a colon and then giving a space, and after that, I'm passing the value. So this is the way you will be pass on key value pair. So the name of the company is only one, which is GUINET. GUINET is offering multiple courses. Now there are more than one courses which GUINET is offering. So certainly you have to put more than one values. So whenever you are putting more than one values, what you do normally, you create a list, right? You create a list like company name is maybe TCS. Company's name may be Wipro. Company's name may be Infosys. Now, in that company, there are thousands of resources who are working. So all the name of the 1,000 resources will be in a list. So now what I'll do, you see in all the keys are in same line, no space, right? This company also started here, courses also started here. Why? Because there are two different keys which are which are not that closely related to each other. They are related, but not that closely related, right? But under courses, whatever value you will put in is very much related to this course's key. So now in that case, you have to put space. I'm giving two space. See, I pressed my space bar twice. Two space I've given. Now I have to put it in a list format. So multiple courses, DevOps is the course. Again, two space bar dash networking courses, again space bar AWS courses, again space bar Azure courses. So now in total, GUINET is offering, consider they're offering more than this, but in total they're offering these four courses. Now you see their list. So I have just started with a dash. I first started with two spaces. You see these are two spaces here. After that, I put a dash and space, and then I gave the name of the course which it's having at this point of time. And to every new course name, I started with the same way so that I can create a list. Right now, I created a list out of it. So this is one. This is under courses. I came here. Now there are trainers. Maybe there are trainers. Now trainers is again a key, right? It's not mandatory to put in capital. The first letter could be capital, small, doesn't matter. Now another key I'm putting. Now see all the keys, company starts with the same line, courses start with the same line, trainers started with the same line. Why? They are not closely related to each other, but these courses, the name of the courses are very closely related to this key. So if you have multiple values to the same key, you can put it in a list format. Each of the entry of the list will start with two space bar, then a hyphen, then a dash, give a space, and then give the name of the value, which is DevOps, networking, AWS, and Azure in this case. There can be more than one trainers. Now trainers is another key. Again, two spaces, dash, Chandra is one of the trainer. Maybe Shekhar is another trainer, right? Maybe Vishal is another trainer. Maybe Pooja is another trainer. So different trainers are there. Now I see these are the different trainers. I started with two dashes. There are two spaces, a dash, and then started giving the value name here. Value name here. Now this is one trainer. Now there could be another keys like time zone, another key. So again, space, IST, PST, CST, and different time zones which you can think about. Different time zone. Again, time zone is a key, and the value, there are multiple time zones in which these codes are happening. Two spaces, dash, IST, PST, and CST. These all are in the list, right? And now again another key, maybe days. Again another key. Again two space bar. Sorry, two space, a dash, and weekdays, weekends, right? Now you see what is happening, a key value pair, all the key which is having multiple entries, I'm putting in a list. Anyone which is having a single entry, I'm putting it like this. All the keys will come in the same line. In case there are some changes where keys will not be in same line, or keys are also put behind two spaces, there has to be some connections. There has to be closely related. It might happen that you put a two space before these courses also, then all the entries of these courses will be pushed again with similar number of spaces, which we'll see in our upcoming discussions. And when I'm actually writing the manifest for Kubernetes resource creation, you will see that. But on a basic level, this is the standard which we follow to write a YAML file. This is the standard which we follow to write any file in YAML syntax. I'll give a pause. Any question in this YAML syntax? Ask me, please. Okay, I'll take that as a no. So now let's quickly go. So now these keys, you see, remember key value pair. So what is the takeaway from here? YAML file is written in key value pair. The keys are written before, after that a colon, and then a value. If you do have multiple values associated to a key, that will be in list format. All the list will start with hyphens. Okay, and there can be multiple keys in your YAML file. Simple. Let's start writing it now. So now what we'll do is, let's write it. The first thing which I'll do is I'll organize in a proper folder. Now here again Linux command will come. I'll do a ls. I have these many files. Now I'll create a directory which is Kubernetes. And now cd. Now you see I'm easily able to execute this command with Linux fundamentals. I no need to be Linux expert to execute these commands. And this is what is expected from any of the interviewer from you. Nothing much other than this at this basic level for sure. Okay. So now let's create our first file. So now I'm going to create a file. I'll write everything by using VI editor. I'll write everything by using a VI editor. Write everything by I'll use VI editor for this. So let me quickly use the VI editor to do this. So VI pod.yaml. I'm going to use VI editor to create this file. Pod is the name of the file. So what I'll do is I'll name the file based on the resource which I'm creating, for which I'm going to write it. Right? So I'm going to use pod to pod file with the name pod to create the resource which is pod. I'll use VI editor for this, which we used earlier also. Hit enter. Press I. Now see the left bottom, it's pod.yaml. I'm pressing I. It changed into insert mode. Now I'll be able to write the files, write the content in this. So now again, I'll start with the keyword. Now what I'm going to do is I'll take you to the official documentation of Kubernetes. Now you see, referring this official documentation will be very, very much important for you, because whenever you get stuck, again, tomorrow I'll be there, I may not be there, but this documentation will always be there with you, right? This documentation will always be there for you. So you will be able to use this documentation to create resources for you. Now, how will you use this documentation? In order to use this documentation, you will use kubernetes.io. Just type kubernetes.io. This is the website. This is the website, right? This is the website. In this website, you press on documentation. You will end up opening huge list of documentation which Kubernetes offers to you. Now, what you want to do? You want to create a pod. So at the left side or at the right top, anywhere you can go. At the left side or at the right top, you type what you want to do. I want to create a pod. I just wrote pod there and hit enter. As I'm hitting the enter, it gave me, okay, fine, there are so many. So now I'm going to click the first one because I just want to create a pod. Hit on the first one and it gave me the code, the manifest file which is needed. So you see, it's not as in I'm writing, it is already present and you have to use this only. You're not going to create anything on your own. You have to use this only. Some certain values based on your organization standards you can change. Some of the values which is not going to change is API version. It has to remain this only. What is API version? You remember API server, right? So now what is happening? This API server is taking all your instruction. Also, what this API will do is API will allow you to interact with Kubernetes, because whatever you are doing, whatever file you are writing, whatever command you are executing is going to communicate with Kubernetes. Same thing happened with Docker also. Whenever we executed Docker, whenever you executed Docker command on your Linux terminal with the use of internet reached out to Docker and communicated with Docker. Similarly, whenever you are executing kubectl command on your terminal, it is going to reach out to Kubernetes by using internet and is going to talk about it. In order to talk about it, you have to mention which version of Kubernetes or which version of Kubernetes resources you want to communicate. Pod is one of the resource which Kubernetes, which you will be able to create with the use of Kubernetes. There are multiple versions of this object, this resource which Kubernetes would have released. The version which you want to create is version 1 of this pod. It is not made by you, remember, it is made by Kubernetes. Kubernetes would have multiple versions of this resource which is pod. The version which you want to work on with is v1. Now you will see this API version is different for different type of resources or could be same for different kind of resources also. Consider this version v1, API version v1 is the first version of the resource type pod which you are going to create with the use of Kubernetes software. That is API version. Any doubt in this? Ask me please. Okay, I'll take that as a no. So API version is the version 1. Now what you are doing, what resource you are creating? I want to create a resource. I want to create a resource at this point, which is of kind pod. This is also not going to change because this is something which is defined by Kubernetes only. This is something which is defined by Kubernetes only. Let me just copy this. Let me just copy this so that I can make some comment also. So now this will not change. Will not change. Always will be used this only. Pod will not change. Because this is the kind of resource which Kubernetes has defined, of which you don't have any control. Of which you don't have any control. Tomorrow, if Kubernetes change the kind from pod to pods, you will have to use that only. You cannot use anything of your choice. Now, metadata. There are certain labels which Kubernetes wants to assign to your resource. Under metadata, you see now the key has some internal key which is separated by this space. Can you see this space? This space now says that under metadata, metadata is a key under which you can do different thing. Name, these are kind of labels. Name can be different. Name is something which you are setting based on your organization standard, based on your project standard. So name could be different because this is something which you are setting, for which Kubernetes doesn't have any control. So I can make it Nginx demo also, or whatever name you wish to. This is not some keys. Remember, you will not be able to change these keys. You will not be able to write name instead of name. You will not be able to write names or named. You have to write name only, but the value of the name could be different based on your need. Certain values which cannot change or keys which you cannot change will be these two. This key will not change, name key will not change, but the value which you are assigning to name key can be different. Again, this is the specification about the pod. Remember, part by part you remember what you are trying to do. This is the specification. These are the configuration about the pod. But what is there within the pod? As per our diagram, what is there within the pod? Within the pod, there is a container. Now you have given the specification about the pod. Now you have to give the specification about the container also. So now specification about the container started with spec. Spec stands for specification. Spec. Whenever you are defining, remember this is a ground rule. Whenever you are defining the container specification, you will start with spec only. You will not start with any other keyword. You will start with spec keyword only to define the standard, to define any configuration about the container. After that, you have to explicitly mention containers. You cannot write any other thing. All the keys, remember, all the keys are same, has to be same. You will not be able to alter the value of the keys for certain name of the keys or the keys itself, but yes, certain values you can alter, like the way here we have altered the value which was assigned to the name key. Under containers, name of the container is nginx. Again, you can change it because this is the name of the container which you are giving, but the name of the image you cannot change because this is something which is managed by Docker. This is now what Kubernetes will do. Based on whatever the image name you are putting, Kubernetes will reach out to Docker Hub registry and will pull that image from there. Now it might happen that you have your own image present in Docker Hub. So instead of this image name, you will put your own. We'll see that in our upcoming sessions. We will do that also. We will try to pull our own image from Docker Hub rather than using the image which is predefined there in Docker. Again, opening up the ports. You remember when we were working with Docker, there also we have used small p, capital P, certain port which were exposed there in the container. You will use a key for that, which is ports, and within that you will give the container port. The port which you want to expose, which you want to open within the container, is port number 80 in this case. I'll give a quick recap. API version will decide which version of this resource pod you're using, which is version 1 at this point. Kind is which type of resource you want to create. I want to create the resource of type pod. Other than this, metadata, under metadata, you will define more about the pod, what is the name of the pod, which application you are hosting it in the pod, what label you want to assign the pod. Like in terms of networking, what you do whenever you plug in any cable there in any of the switch, you assign a label, right? And consider this as the label, with by means of which you will be able to recognize which cable is going into which port, which cable is used for what purpose. That is what the metadata talks about. And this section all talks about the pod. Now within the pod, we have a container. Container specification will always start with spec. After that, you have to mention containers, and within container, you have to give the name of the container. Anything you can give, not mandatory to be used as nginx. This can change, but the name of the image has to be same because this is what which is managed by Docker Hub. Under ports, you will mention the port which you're opening in the container. So container port talks about, and you see, this is in camel case format. What is camel case? The first letter is small c and the port. So there are two words. If you'll see, container is one word and port is another word. Wherever they will be, like here also it's camel case. API is one word and version is another word. API A started lowercase, V is uppercase. Here C started lowercase, P is uppercase. You have to be very careful while using this. And here you have to give the container port number as 80. So this is a basic manifest file to create a pod. I'll give a pause. Ask me questions, please. No questions?
Sir, I will go through it. I mean, practical after doing this practical, and it's a concept is clear, but
Mhm.
yeah, to understand it again,
Yeah, you have to write it. Don't
yeah.
just go through. If you'll write it, because when you're writing it, you will understand how much space you have to give here. It's very important. Without space, it will error out. How much space you have to give, where you have to give this hyphens, where you have not to give this hyphens. You have to just understand everything.
Okay, sir. Have a few questions. Like after container, you mention dash space name colon,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So before that, we learned like once we defined what any field, after that we have to put two space then dash and then
Yes.
the keyword. But in this case, we are providing the space between dash and name.
This
So
space you can give that. When
it is
here in
different one.
it's same, you can give or you can ignore, but let's give it, no problem. EC2 user. mkdir cd_ks pod.yaml first pod.yaml, and let me just copy paste this. Okay, you're saying that why we did not give a space here. You can do that, no problem.
Right, right.
You can do that. But when you're giving, you have to give spaces, not everywhere. You can do that. And here also you can give spaces. It's fine.
After dash, there should be no space, like as per our.
After dash, there should be one space. Here also you see.
But
After
in the note,
dash,
yeah, you have not mentioned
um,
in the one note here.
see there is a space, no space.
Okay,
See there is
space.
one space.
Okay, got it. And like for we also need to do the copy paste like image because we didn't have the information. We don't have the information of the images.
Yeah, this you have to get from Docker Hub. From Docker Hub, this image will be there. Let's see. This image must be there in Docker Hub. So if we go to Docker Hub and Nginx, Nginx official image,
We have to Google it.
whatever it is, same image you have to get from Docker Hub. It should be there 1.14
Yeah, they are different one.
on different versions. So whatever version you want to choose from here, you can do that. But yeah, it has to be there. If it's not there in Docker Hub, then certainly it will fail because it is going to copy things from Docker Hub only.
So till now, what we did, like we are just creating the images, running the images, and do some basic commands in any OS, right? As a DevOps engineer, this is only our job.
No,
Like
we have
on
done.
any OS, we are installing the images and doing some configuration, not configuration, just basic admin commands.
No, what you have done is lots. You have learned how to create image, how to
Hmm.
push the image in Docker Hub, how
Yeah.
to create a container, how to host one application there in the container, how to
Hmm.
expose the ports in the container so that the container is accessible by any of the end users. That is the IT. That is what we do in IT industry. In IT industry, you will be given one application. You being a DevOps engineer will just not be expected to create a container. No, your job being a DevOps engineer will be to ensure that the application reaches to customer. What is the use of just creating the container in one virtual machine? No use, right? If the container is not hosting anything, if the application is not accessible by end user, then what is the use of container? Nothing. Your job will be to create the container, to expose the port there in the container, to put one application file within the container, to ensure that the application, whatever you have put on the container, is accessible by end users. After that, for reusability, and not, it's there also there itself, your job is not done. You have to ensure that tomorrow, in case you are gone, maybe you resign from the company, someone else replaced you, they will be able to perform same thing. How? With the use of reusability concept. Now for that, what you will do, you will ensure that whatever container you have created, you have formed image out of it. You have placed the image there in a repository which is not accessible only by you, but accessible by multiple team members of yours. So for that, you have to place the image there in Docker Hub. Now other DevOps engineer, once they join in, they will be able to pull the same image which is already running, which is already functioning, which is already hosting the application, and is able to create another container. So actually you have done multiple things, right? So being a DevOps engineer, you have to know all these things.
Okay. Okay, so got it.
One question. Okay, cool. So now we'll learn how to create a pod by using this manifest file, right? By using this manifest file, how to create a pod. Now, in order to create pod by using this manifest file, now this time we will execute some other command, not the run command, right? Not the run command, because initially we ran the run command. This time we are going to execute some other command to execute this. Now let's save and come out of this. Saved and came out of this. Saved and came out of this. Now what I'm going to do, I have to run
This is
this.
the
So
command
now
to save it. So
colon wq is
colon.
the
Okay,
command.
same one.
That is via editor. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the another Kubernetes command, which is kubectl apply. I said you another standard is apply other than run or other than get. And you will put -f to mention the file which you are going to use to indicate which file you do have to manage your manifest code. So now -f is the flag. So kubectl apply -f and the name of the file which contains your manifest. This is the command to run any of the manifest files. So always remember you will use apply command, kubectl apply, to run a manifest file, to run the code. A run command is to just run the command, a kind of ad hoc commands, a kind of command line command, and the get is just to list all the resources. So now when you execute this, what it says, pod with the name nginx is created, right? What it says, pod with the name nginx is created. And now if I list down kubectl get pods, what it says, pod with the name, let me just clean this up, kubectl delete pod, and now get pods. I have Nginx pod, which is created 27 seconds ago. This is created with the execution of kubectl. I did not execute any separate run command to create this Nginx container. I created it with the execution of my command only. Now, why did it got the name as Nginx? Because if you'll see again, cat is another Linux command to list down the content of a file. I think I explained this also earlier. So now it took the name of the pod is now Nginx. Why? Because under metadata, I gave the name of the pod as Nginx only. Now, this is the way you will be able to create a resource by using manifest file. Clear how to create a file by using manifest, how to create a pod by using manifest, how to create by pod by using normal ad hoc command. These are the two things which we have learned till now. Are these two things clear?
Yes, sir. For me, it's now clear.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's learn how to delete it. So it might happen that once you have created, you will have to delete it also eventually, like the way we have deleted in Docker also by using Docker rm command. Similarly, you have to execute certain command to delete these pods also. So now in order to delete, you will say kubectl delete pod and you will give the name of the pod, kubectl delete pod and the name of the pod, which is Nginx in this case. Hit enter and it says pod Nginx deleted from default namespace. And if you will now execute same command, there are no pods. So in order to create, what you will do, you will execute this apply command again because you still have that file present. And after that, again, if you'll execute this command, it will say, yes, I do have the files present. I do have the pod present, right? I do have the pod present, and that is the way you will be able to just list down everything. Okay, so now you know how to create a pod by using your by using command line and by using manifest file. What is the next thing? After you learn pod, the next level will be multiple pods by using a replica set. Right? So now one pod is created. Till now you have learned to manage only one at a time. Understand this. Now we are going to we'll go some high level. Till now in container also you have seen to work only on one container at a time. In in case of in case of Kubernetes also you have learned how to create one pod at a time, but that is not how the IT works. IT has to manage scalability is pretty much important. Traffic may go high tomorrow. What happens if the traffic goes high? In that case, you will have the concept of replica set, like the name says set. It will have multiple replicas. What do you mean by replica? Replica is copy of something, multiple replicas, multiple copies of same type of resources. Again, we have to write some manifest for that, and the manifest again you can get from here. Here I'll make some changes in the replica set manifest, because here the replica set manifest could be very complicated. So this is bit more complicated. I will not make it so complicated to begin with, otherwise it will be bit tough for you to understand. I'll make it bit simple than the way it is written here, but I'll follow same type of stand. Now you see one thing, API version in replica set is different than the way it was there for container. API version for container was what? For the pod was what? V1 only, but the API version for replica set is apps V1, some other version. Kind is replica set. Again, same thing. Metadata is used. Specification is used twice. Why? We'll talk about that in while we are creating this replica set in our tomorrow's session. So today I'll stop here only. And in tomorrow's session, we will see how to create the replica set. And there I'll explain you in a simpler way. This could be a bit more complicated, in a simpler way about the manifest file to create a replica set. Right? Hope it's clear. Practice it for sure, because until unless you are writing these manifest, you will not understand. That is for sure. You will not be able to understand how many, because certainly you will get error. This error will tell you, the failure will tell you that where, for example, if I will make some error here, let me make some error here. Let me just do VI and make some error, right? Let me make some error here. Okay. Let me make some error. I made some error, right? And let me just save this. This error will tell you what to fix. Now let me run the same command again. You see, it failed. Now what it says, error when creating pod.yaml, pod in version v1 cannot be handled as a pod, strictly decoding error, unknown filled containers. It is not even recognizing the filled as why? Because this space is missing, right? This space is missing now. You have to give spaces properly, and you will learn these things only if you actually write it. Just by reading or just by seeing this manifest file, you will not be able to learn it. So I'll strongly insist, write it by your own to learn it. Okay. Any questions before we end our today's session?
Sir, no question, but I want to inform you guys one thing that I'm switching my job and I'm, not regularly attending these classes, so I would be, just watch the videos and like that. S-
Yeah, try to,
So, how
because
long this session going on? Like, what else are pending things?
Kubernetes, Terraform, Prometheus, Grafana. Three more topics will be covered.
Kubernetes, Terraform, and one more.
Prometheus, no, Kubernetes is already
Prometheus.
going on. So after
Okay.
Kubernetes, there will be Terraform, Prometheus, Grafana. Three more topics.
And so, how long it would take, like the weekends or the weeks till
More,
January? Like how?
more 2 to 3 weeks, maximum 3 weeks.
Okay. Okay. It's possible for me that I would join within week 1 or 2, but yeah, I will continue with the recordings, and once I join, I will ask question accordingly.
Sure, sure. But
Because
go through
after two,
recording.
3 weeks, I can join these classes, but for next 2 weeks, yeah, it is limited for me.
Understand. Yeah. But try to go through recordings at least, Ashwini, because you wanted to learn this, right?
Right, sir.
So
I on since day one I want these topics, but somehow, yeah, it's my luck.
yeah, yeah.
At the right moment, I didn't get the time. But sir, in case I have queries, then can I ping you or, on any number like that?
I
Because
don't
on
know.
class, yeah, it is not possible for me to ask you questions.
Can you check with GoInit once if it is okay? They'll be able to help
Okay,
you. Just check with them.
sure.
Okay, then thanks. Let's
Yeah.
connect again tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks. Bye.
Weber, please ping me.